So recently, Jack has really started to try to be a little bit more independent by crawling around everywhere, and he's trying to figure out how to walk. And two of the things that he's really started to do recently, one is he likes to try to crawl off the bed, and if I'm not there to stop him or pull him away, he would gladly go head first over the bed and crawl right off the bed and probably fall and hurt himself. And usually whenever I pull him away or stop him, he throws a tantrum and gets all mad at me that I stopped him from crawling. The other thing he's been trying to do lately is crawl up the stairs on his own, which is awesome to see. But if I'm not there with him, then I'm not going to let him crawl up the stairs, unless I'm right there behind him to make sure he doesn't fall so I can catch him. And in Jack's mind, he gets upset sometimes when I stop him from doing these things, because all he wants to do is move on his own and go off and do his own thing. But I'm there to stop him because I can see that doing these things, he's going to get hurt. If I just let him crawl up the stairs on his own and don't stand there right behind him every step of the way, something could happen. He could trip, he could not make the next step and roll the whole way down the steps, and then that's not going to be a good situation for him or for me. I'm always wanting to make sure that he's safe and that he's okay, and that if he's doing something that he shouldn't be doing, I'm there to stop him. If it's not good for him, I'm able to stop him or walk along with him to make sure that he's okay in the process. And throwing the temper tantrums that he does, I started to think, how often do we do that with God? Like, how often do we actually temper tantrum whenever we don't get what we want from God? And in the book of Matthew, we get a picture of Jesus talking to a crowd, and he's talking to them about just being persistent with God. Whenever we have a need with God, and we need him to take care of it, he's encouraging us to be persistent in prayer, to constantly be going to God in prayer and asking him for the things that we need, for the wants that we have. And if we're persistent in that, then God will be faithful in giving us an answer. And one of the things that Jesus talks about is that he refers to God as our Father. God is our Heavenly Father. That's something that we've been talking about in the last few videos, and as this idea that God is our Heavenly Father. And one of the things that Jesus talks about is this very issue, that God is our Heavenly Father. He relates to the parents in the crowd in saying that, you as parents understand that if your kid asks you for a loaf of bread, like, would you give him a rock instead? Or if your kid asked you for some fish or something to eat, would you give him a snake? No, like you as a parent would understand that your kid has these needs, and he kind of relates to us in this sense that we're sinful, broken people. Like, we're to the very core, we're evil people. And if we as evil people can understand that our kids need nourishment, like if we wouldn't give our kids a rock when they ask for bread, then how much better can God understand our needs? How much better and more willing is God to give us good things and to meet our needs when we ask him for those things? And as I started to think about this topic and how sometimes we go to God for things and he doesn't allow us to have them, I think the first thing that we need to understand and ask ourselves is, what are you asking God for? Sometimes we ask God for things that aren't really good for us, or maybe we're asking God for things that we don't really need. Maybe you're in a position where you're asking God to put you into a relationship with someone. Maybe you're single and all you really want is to have somebody to be in a relationship with, whether Whether it's somebody new or somebody that you've been in a relationship with before and just kind of fell apart. But sometimes those are things we go to God and ask Him for. Maybe you're in a position where you're just needing some money, and you go to God and you ask Him, to bless you with some more money, and because you're just living paycheck to paycheck, and that's so stressful sometimes, and especially in this economy, that can be such a real situation for so many of us. And sometimes we ask God for things that we do need and that actually would be good for us. Maybe you're in a position with your job where it's just not a good situation. Like, you're totally stressed out at this place and you can't handle your boss, you can't handle the workload, like whatever it is, you just want to get out of that job, and you ask God for a better job, and maybe He sees that is a need, or that is something that would be good for you. Maybe you're asking for a relationship, and that is something that God sees is something that would be good for you, or He's got somebody in place that He wants to put together with you and to begin to build a good, healthy relationship. Maybe you're suffering from some kind of a sickness and you're just tired of dealing with it, and you've tried so hard to get over it, and nothing seems to be helping. And sometimes we can just take that to God and ask Him for healing. Whether it's physical healing, whether it's emotional healing, whatever situation you're going through, we can always come to God and ask Him for healing, and those are times where He can respond to us.
And all the mistakes one life can take, they all finally start to go away.
And the next thing that we really need to understand is that we don't just talk to God and ask Him for things and expect no response. Like God, if we have this relationship with God, we should be able to have a give and take. Like, we should be able to talk to Him and have Him talk to us back. And really, God is ready and willing to talk to us if we're willing to listen to Him. And one of the things that God could say to you is no. Like, you're coming to God with these requests and these needs, and maybe God realizes that that's not going to be the best thing for you. Like, God could just straight up say no. You might have this job that you really want, and that you think would be the greatest thing for you, but God realizes that it really wouldn't. Whether you realize it or not, God's response is no. And that can be tough to handle sometimes. And then we could go to the opposite side of things where God says yes, and that can be a very cool thing, because you've been begging God and pleading with God to give you this thing, to give you this relationship, to give you this new job, to bring healing into your life in some way, to maybe get a raise at work, and He says yes. And God would say yes because He can look and see, okay, that is a need that they really have. This is something that's really going to benefit them, and this is something that I can do for them, and I want to do for them. And sometimes God will say yes to something, but not right now. Maybe God does see that you really do need whatever it is you're asking for, but because God sees the bigger picture, He knows that right now you're just not ready for it. Like he knows there's a few more steps that you need to go through before you're really ready for it, before God can really give you that blessing and to the point where you're really going to fully appreciate it for the blessing that it is. And there may be times where God just won't respond at all. Like, you are listening for Him to respond, and He's just not responding. And ultimately, it's because God is okay with you making that decision or going in a certain direction in life, as long as you'll allow Him to be there with you every step of the way. Similar to the way Jack is. I have no problem with Jack wanting to crawl up the steps. Like, it's exciting for me as a parent to see him wanting to learn how to do that, and to do that on his own. Like, he just automatically goes for the steps the second he gets a chance to. And if I'm in a position where I can stop what I'm doing, or I'm not doing anything at all, and I can follow him up the steps, I'm gladly willing to let him do that and just go along with him. And ultimately, we need to really trust and believe that God sees the bigger picture in our life. Like God ultimately knows what's best for us because He's our Heavenly Father. There's this popular saying that I'm sure you've heard, where it's talking about someone who can't see the situation that they're in because they're just looking at what's right in front of them. They're not looking at the whole picture. They would say that person can't see the forest for the trees because they're so focused on what's right in front of them that they can't get past that and they can't see the bigger picture, that what they have in front of them might not be the best thing for them, that they need to move on, that they need to accept what's going on so that they can get to the end result and kind of look back and see, okay, these things did take place because that really was the best thing for me. And that's how God works. Like, God is an all-knowing and all-understanding God. He is the perfect Father who can see exactly what we need when we need it, and that's when He wants to bless us. And it's important for us to ask Him for those things, because if we're not asking, then why would He bless us? Like, we as kids growing up would ask our parents for things when we wanted things. So why wouldn't we go to God and request the things that we need, or even request some of the things that we want, just to see what His answer is? Like, God might bless you if you ask for it. Like, maybe that's why you're not receiving blessings, is because you're not actually asking God for them.
And now that we're here, so far away, and I feel like I can face a day.
And the Bible states that God works for the good of all of those who love Him. And it's important for us to remember that God isn't a genie in the bottle. Like, God's not here to give you your 3 wishes and grant whatever wishes you might have, because we have a relationship with Him where He's our Heavenly Father. And if you really think about it, it's kind of cool that God works that way, because if you think of kids who we've all seen that they have parents that just give them whatever they want. Like, these kids have never heard the word no in their life, and they're basically the biggest, most spoiled brats that you could probably ever see, and nobody likes to be around them. So it's important to think about this relationship we have with God as Him being our Heavenly Father and not giving us every single need or desire that we have, because if He were to do that, then we'd basically be a bunch of spoiled brats. Like, we would have this genie Father who gives us whatever we want, and life would be pointless because we would never learn. We would never accept no. We'd probably throw a bunch of temper tantrums. But sometimes I think we treat God that way. Like, we have this mentality that God is this genie in a bottle, that He's going to give us whatever we want. And when we don't get what we want, we just throw a tantrum. Like, we walk away from God, or maybe we argue with Him about it and don't accept the blessings that He's trying to give us. And that can really hinder our relationship with God when we're looking at Him to try to meet needs and just expecting Him to give us whatever we want because we think that's what He's supposed to do. So whatever it is that you're facing in life, like whatever wants or needs that you have in your life, take them to God, because God is our Heavenly Father who wants to bless us, who wants to meet our needs and meet the desires of our heart. Whatever God's response is, know that it's because He has your best interest at heart, because He can see the bigger picture, because God knows what's best for us and the plans that He has for our future.
I can forgive, and I'm not ashamed to be